Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your man, Sean Zittel, walking through the MGM Grand at about 1 o'clock in the morning after Manny Pacquiao has a controversial draw against Barrios. Let's get into it. I thought Pacquiao did no worse than a draw, and I thought in order to get a draw, watching the fight live in the arena, you had to score every swing round to Barrios to get a draw, which you're not really supposed to do. Paulie Malignaggi talks about this beautifully. And Barrios, if you gave him every swing round, gave him every benefit of the doubt, goes away with a draw to retain his title. But again, I thought it was anywhere from 16-12 to, if you're being really generous, 114-114. Point being, Pacquiao, again, like he's done so many times, defies logic. He doesn't do it the way Bernard Hopkins did it, being very, well, he was cerebral tonight, very smart, but not quite the way Bernard Hopkins does it, being a defensive wizard and using a lot of his mind over his body. Not like George Foreman, just walking through the best work of a Michael Moore for 8 rounds just to set up a big moment or two to knock out Foreman. No, he was a step ahead through 12 rounds. He was a step ahead of Mario Barrios. Still faster than him, still quicker than him, still quicker feet than him, and still more unpredictable than Mario Barrios, who is at this level, the championship level. Remember, let's keep that in mind. The championship level is painfully average. And this is, it's almost like an indictment a little bit on this era of boxing, because I almost just want to see fighters do in this era what they would have done in previous eras with a 46-year-old. And I know, again, that Foreman did it at 45 and Hopkins did it at 49. But yeah, it's just Barrios, again, painfully average in this fight. A lot of people are discussing, could he have let go more? Could he take in more chances? I don't know. I think his limitations don't allow him to get overzealous in there. There was one moment in the 8th round where Barrios really tried to start going downhill. He had Pacquiao near the ropes, and he pressed him. He tried to go downhill on him, and Pacquiao touched him with the right hand of the body and then let off one of those crazy Pacquiao combinations and wound up really stealing the round. And that was exactly why Barrios couldn't get overzealous in there and had to stay cautious through all 12 rounds. So I don't think, he could have tried to counter a little bit more, but then maybe you get knocked out. So it was what it was. It's an all-time great fighter, one of the best fighters that ever lived, well past his prime, being competitive against a very average world champion in Mario Barrios. Just to kind of further illustrate what I meant by Barrios painfully average at the championship level, in the NFL, they have this phrase called JAG, J-A-G, means just a guy. And it means in the NFL at that level, he's a JAG, he's just a guy. Put him in at any other football league on the planet and he'd be amazing. He'd be head and shoulders above the competition. But like Barrios would be against club fighters or journeymen or real average fighters, just without, relatively speaking. But at the championship level, he's a JAG. He's just a guy. So I thought the first 3 rounds was either 2-1 Pacquiao, could have it 3-zip Pacquiao, and then rounds 4 and 5 hit. And it was like, okay, now the fight is going the way it's expected. Pacquiao has slowed down. Maybe that was all he had a little bit in the first 3 rounds. Barrios is gaining a footing in this fight. He's not dominating. He's not lighting it up or setting it on fire, but he's starting to slowly gain a footing in the fight and take control of the fight. And then in round 6, Manny found another burst of energy. And then I thought Manny Pacquiao swept rounds 6 through 9. And Barrios was effective with his jab in this fight. At times, he got away from it. And effective with his counter punches, but to the body more so than the head. So in the last 3 rounds, 10, 11, 12, the championship round, Barrios did rally. He swept all 3 rounds on the judges' cards. I thought it was arguable the 10th round or the 11th round maybe could have went Pacquiao's way too. He had some moments in those rounds. 12th round, Barrios closed strong. So credit to Barrios for that. He did close strong. So if you give him all 3 of the last 10, 11, 12, and I thought he definitely won 4 and 5, that's 5 rounds right there. If you could find one of those first 3 rounds to give to him, which I thought would be fine, then it is a draw. But if anyone won, it was Manny Pacquiao. And I guess in between the rounds, because again, I'm at the fight, I'm not watching it on pay-per-view, Coach Bob Santos is trying to tell Barrios, don't touch Manny's gloves anymore. And what does Manny do? He goes right back out there and touches his gloves again. And I said in the very beginning, back in May, when they made this fight, that I did think Barrios was being too respectful. And if Barrios was going to wind up beating Pacquiao tonight and stopping him, well, now it's last night, then I was gonna give him props for doing it his way. The rest of the people like me might have thought maybe being too respectful of the legend and all that stuff. You got to be ready to take it from him, to put him down and retire him and make your statement in boxing. And if he was going to go on to stop Pacquiao, I was ready to give him credit for doing it his way, not the way someone like me thinks he should or anybody else who's not in his shoes should. But since he didn't, it begs the question again, was he just too respectful in the lead up, too deferential, and then on fight night a little in awe of Pacquiao and all those kinds of things. But to be fair to him, Chris Algieri he articulated something I seen in Pacquiao back when I watched the Thurman fight live. What I really saw as secret sauce is his push-pull game, where if you try to pursue him, now you're literally walking into a buzzsaw. But if you try to back up, his first step, he fakes it, he feints, and then he makes you go back in a straight line, and that's your ass, because your feet are not going to move backwards as quickly as his feet can jump in forward. And you're not going to be able to slip on the back foot everything he starts throwing at you once he gets it. So, easier said than done, obviously. But for Barrios, again, maybe just too respectful of Pacquiao in the lead up to this fight, and it showed on fight night. The fight was one fighter in Mario Barrios who couldn't take too many chances, couldn't get overzealous, against another fighter, Manny Pacquiao, who, if he was younger, definitely would have won this fight by stoppage, and who had enough at almost 47 years old to put together enough moments to win the fight in most people's eyes, but not enough energy to drop Barrios or follow it up and really dominate and get him out of there. So as for what's going forward, my guy Andreas Hale caught me up to speed while I was editing. He was in a scrum with Sean Gibbons, Pacquiao's manager, advisor, and apparently they're liking the Rolly Romero fight potentially instead of a rematch with Mario Barrios. Pacquiao confirmed in the post-fight that Pac is back and he's back to be fighting for good. He shut down talk about politics after the fight. He wants to get back into boxing. It's not that I don't have, and by the way, about Pacquiao's fight tonight, I think when he made his ring entrance, I actually got a little emotional because as I get older, I can appreciate things with a deeper perspective. And Manny Pacquiao's relationship with the Filipino people is unlike anything I've ever seen before. The way they love that man. And I'm an iconoclast at times. I don't like false idol worship, but Pacquiao literally weeds that out by always pointing his hands to his faith, to Jesus Christ and his Lord and Savior and all that. And so that almost kind of debunks his false idol thing because he tries to point you towards, the real idol. But it's amazing and moving to watch because anytime Manny needed a boost from the crowd, they would start chanting, Manny, Manny. And I've been hearing those chants since I came to fights here in Vegas growing up at Pacquiao Morales 2 and 3. But it's different when Manny was in his prime. This was an old Manny, and it was like the crowd, whenever he needed it, tried to will him through certain moments where he felt his age. And it was like, watching the fight, it's like, Barrios, Father Time is knocking, but he's not just gonna come through the door and knock out Manny Pacquiao for you. But to Barrios' credit, Father Time didn't quite knock in the way I thought it would, and a lot of people thought it would. It was starting to in the 4th and 5th round. The movement was slowing down. He was becoming more of a stationary target, but he found energy again in the 6th and then took over the fight for the next couple rounds. So as for, again, what's next, I don't think a Mayweather rematch, thank God. Manny even said, hey, he's retired. So I guess Rolly versus Manny, who do you guys think wins that fight? I'm done predicting Manny Pacquiao fights. Can't get a beat on him. From his style to his career and his life, it's just all breaks so many rules, and he's such an exception to rules that I'm almost out of the Manny Pacquiao prediction business. So we'll see if he fights Rolly, if he rematches Barrios. We'll see. I will note, to be fair, that Fernando Vargas, Joe Goosen, Wayne McCullough, and a few other pros, a lot of pros felt Pacquiao got robbed, but a lot of them also felt the draw was fine, and that with the crowd reacting to all of Pacquiao's flurries, everything he did, that if you put that aside and put the sentimentality of Pacquiao wowing people with his performance in a draw at 46, that the draw was a good verdict. It was fine. Barrios closed strong the last 3 and won enough of the first 9 to make it a draw. So that bears repeating, I suppose. Now as for the co-main event, great fight. I think Tim Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora have given boxing fans 20 rounds of some really good actions, really good fights. And Fundora, just too much, man. Fundora's gotten better. At 27 years old, he's entering his real prime now. He's still vulnerable. Tszyu caught him with a number of bombs, but Fundora's harder to beat now than he was a few years ago. His sense of distance, his offensive arsenal, his confidence, and his IQ have all gotten better. He still got caught with some bombs, and I want to give a lot of credit to Tim Tszyu for going for broke at times in between Fundora's punches, trying to take his head off. And then Tszyu had one of his best rounds in the 8th round, but then right there at the end, Fundora cornered him. And I think, just watching from the outside, that Fundora sensed, I got to put something on this guy. He's starting to really believe and get some momentum here. And so Fundora always answered the call. Every time Tszyu landed a big shot, and never stopped Fundora from continuing to fight downhill for most of the fight. Fundora gets Tszyu into the corner right at the 10-second mark and unloads a fierce barrage of shots. I mean, he unloads the heavy artillery. He rips the uppercuts, and I from where I'm sitting, kind of close to ringside, it looks like he's just ripping through the high guard when Tszyu went in the shell, in the corner. And then Tszyu looked very woozy getting back to the corner. He knew where he was, but he was woozy, and he knew he had enough. And I want to make a distinction here between what Tim Tszyu did tonight and what we would call quitting in a fight. I think when you go out as valiant as Tim Tszyu did, who for a minute there looked like he was going to get steamrolled in 3 or 4 rounds, when you go ahead, and it's funny enough, there was a woman, Filipino woman, who had to pull me aside for a second there and ask me, how can I try to see Pacquiao before he leaves Vegas? And I told her, well, try to go by the Grand Garden Arena. He has his Bible studies. And since you're Filipino, if he makes eye contact with you, he'll probably say, come on and join our Bible study and let you tag along. So whoever that nice woman is, I hope you get to meet Pacquiao. Anyway, back to Tszyu and Fundora, the rematch. When you let your balls hang, like Tim Tszyu does, when it looks like you got dropped in the first round, looks like you might get stopped early, and you let him hang and go for broke in between punches and land bombs and turn what looked like a one-sided route early into a pretty damn good fight, then you retired on your stool when you knew you had enough, Remember, that's what it goes down as in the record books is RTD, right? On BoxRec, you retired on your stool. And that's what Tim Tszyu did tonight. He retired on his stool. And Tim Tszyu will now be one of the what-ifs in boxing history. What if Tim Tszyu didn't get cut at the end of the second round against Sebastian Fundora? Would he have won that fight? Would he have even fought Pacquiao-Barrios in his next fight? What if? And now Tim Tszyu is relegated to what-if status in that sense. But I know what my eyes saw during this run. I know he'll never quite be what he was a year and a half ago. He was a good fighter, no doubt about it. And I got a lot of respect for Tszyu, but the man of the hour is the dude who apparently just got accepted into Harvard, Sebastian Fundora. And first of all, credit to Sebastian Fundora's father, who is built. Now, a lot of trainers get a lot of credit, deservedly, taking fighters that were already built. Freddie Fundora built Gabriela Fundora and Sebastian Fundora from scratch and built them into 2 excellent world champions, undisputed, unified. Now, Sebastian just has the WBC belt, but he did call out Xander Zayas, who he vacated the WBO title to, so he could fight Jorge Garcia Perez next week in MSG. I'll be there. But Fundora, again, has grown into his prime now. And I still favor Virgil Ortiz to beat him, but I favored Tim Tszyu foolishly. Shouldn't have made that pick. I knew for months that Fundora would stop Tim Tszyu. But then you get to see a fighter in camp. And you get, when you see a fighter in camp, but you don't get to see the other guy in camp, and they have a really good workout, now you may be overrating their chances heading in. But so I say that because a lot of people underestimate Sebastian Fundora. I think that the era of that is over now, and he's seen as, corny pun intended, a very tall task for even the best fighters like Boots Ennis and for Virgil Ortiz and Bakram Murtazaliev and all those guys. One thing I love about Sebastian Fundora, he is tough as a $2 steak. You're not going to win a war of attrition with him. You might knock him out like Mendoza did, but you're not going to, over 12 rounds, if it becomes a battle of dog and conditioning and those kinds of things. You're not going to beat him at that. But I do favor Ortiz because I think Ortiz could find the same shots that Tszyu did, except he hits a little harder, his feet are a little faster, and he throws with more volume. But Fundora is kind of got some final boss energy. Can you beat the 6'6" guy who's better than he was when he got knocked out now? And he's a dog, man. He's a real dog. I'm happy for him. He's gotten better as a fighter. He's grown into his own as a world champion now. And he's also one of the most entertaining fighters to watch. He's never in a bad fight. So props to Fundora. He was the man tonight. And of course, props to all the fighters on the card. A lot of people thought Brandon Figueroa got a gift against Joet Gonzalez. But from all, I'm out. I'm headed home. It's 1:30 in the morning here in Vegas. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe it was a little incoherent. See you later. Good night.